Good morning and welcome to a Yarn Live. This is our Cloud Native Summit event special edition, and I'm your host, Ryan the Lion, and I've got three amazing guests. So these are three of the speakers who will be at the event. There's a whole day event on August the 5th in Wellington at Te Papa, and on the 4th of August, there is also workshops beforehand for attendees, so you can get into there and do some hands-on. But first of all, let's say a warm welcome to the team. So Mike, good morning. Great to have you here.
Hey, Ryan, good morning, and hello, everyone.
Cool. And Everett, good morning. Welcome.
Morena, good to see you. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Morena. And Anna, thank you so much. Good to see you as well.
Good morning, everyone from Wellington. It's amazing to see you all here.
And the World Wide Web, because we're broadcasting out across YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. And what our aim is to give everyone some insights of what will be discussed and presented at the Cloud Native Summit on August the 5th. So, of course, what we're going to do is ask our three team members here to share some insights about their speech. This is just a bit of a teaser. It's not the whole speech, or else why would you go? Why would you not go to the event? So the aim is that this will give you something to think about. And, of course, please put your thoughts in the comments so we can take your questions, etc., in the comments, and we'll pop them up on screen and ask people. Ask the respective speaker. So shall we kick off? And what we're going to do is get each of our speakers to give a brief introduction of themselves. So we've got some context to their background related to what they're going to talk about, and then also a little bit about what they're going to share. So this is a bit of an overview and some highlights. So Mike, shall we start with you and get you to give us a bit of a rundown, and we'll pop you into the main screen. So over to you, sir.
Sure, mate. So thanks, Ryan. So everyone, my name is Mike Calizo. I'm currently working for Elasticsearch as their principal customer success manager. I'm currently focused for Australian federal government customer and is based here in Canberra. Before moving back in Australia, I worked in Wellington for about 10 years, first in Datacom and then Red Hat as their principal solutions architect, where I focus also for New Zealand government and FSI customers. Fun fact about me, Ryan, I love contributing to open source community, and I usually contribute to some open source project that I like by writing code and sometimes simply by testing the project itself. I am also a hashtag wannabe writer where I contribute writing tech articles. And I'm very excited to be part of this chat and to yarn with you, Ryan.
That's great. That sounds like an amazing background, and good to see that you're so active in the community. And of course, that naturally rolls into being a speaker at the event. So now if we could ask you, what will be your presentation, and give us an overview and some key highlights, please.
Sure. So the topic of my presentation or talks will be how to adapt DevSecOps successfully. And I am actually really excited about this topic. What I will be sharing, it can be a little bit controversial, but with the hope that this topic can steer some ideas that will actually help attendees to, drive their organization to actually be successful in DevSecOps adoption. Um, I am not a security practitioner, but I have chosen this topic because I am very passionate about security, where I actually write about this specific topic in opensource.com, and now, happy to share this idea in the talk. I really believe that cybersecurity breach is inevitable because, the bad guys are getting creative and smarter day by day. And they are, they are attacking a lot of enterprise right now. And the idea of this talk is because I was exposed to many organizations who try to adapt DevSecOps, not only in ANZ, but also globally as an SA for Red Hat and now a CSM for Elastic, where scenario like, security teams start implementing DevSecOps practice because they needs to adapt to the speed of their dev counterpart delivering cloud native application. In many cases, DevSecOps adoption causes more organizational issues than benefits, because organizations are not prepared. And we cannot just blame security team on this, because it's not really their fault. So what I'm going to do in my talk is I'll be sharing some common obstacles that I see and what to watch out. And I'll be also sharing some of the, how customers or how enterprise can use the power of data to help them adapt to DevSecOps successfully. Why it's important to enable real-time decision making, how data can provide real-time analytics and change their security state to proactive instead of reactive, and doing it by scale, and how data can help accelerate the DevSecOps pipelines. And that's basically the blurb of what I'm going to talk about.
Well, that's pretty fascinating. I picked up on the fact that you mentioned that DevSecOps is probably the hardest. I don't know if you see it this way, but I'll say it this way: the hardest to get working operationally, and with a range of challenges around that. Is that something that Anna and Everett you've seen yourselves? You'd agree with? It's a pretty common issue that everyone's facing with getting DevSecOps working. Is it?
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a DevSecOps practitioner, and that's my day-to-day job. Yeah, I can tell you sometimes it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would, if before you all answer, we'll go back from Anna, Everett to Mike as a speaker on the subject. What would be the key thing that you think is the number one challenge to resolve to be successful with DevSecOps delivery?
One of the things is simply a matter of engagement with your security team and your security engineers and practitioners. So many times, it's security is still an afterthought, and it's you don't, particularly in enterprises, you don't actually come to it until the very end, when it's it becomes a must, right, or a thou shalt. Really what you want to do, and what I've done in the past to great effect, is engage the security team early. Yes. Engage them early and often. Just take them along. It's kind of an old chestnut.
Sounds like the age-old.
Yeah.
Sounds like the age-old solution for most things, which is to engage early, lots of communication, and basically get everyone to get along. Create that relationship and buddies.
So this movement is called shifting left. Everything is DevOps shifting left, DevSecOps shifting left. So, and there is MLOps, ProdOps. It's all about shifting left. It's all about engaging everyone as early as possible.
Yeah.
It's a new term for me. Shift and left. Is that in left arrow?
Shifting left is actually the term.
Lift and shift. Okay.
So the picture in my mind when it comes to DevSecOps is actually the usual move use loop, wherein you need to continue on iterating something that actually be acceptable. And when it comes to DevSecOps adoption, the biggest hindrance that I see is actually the culture of the organization. So that's why some of the most successful implementation of DevSecOps comes in when there is an executive buy-in, or it becomes a top-down approach, and because executive can actually convince people to adapt to the changes, and because we are human and we are creature of habits, right? So sometimes if we are introducing new process, people will fight and find faults or issues in new processes all the time, and it's humans' natural behavior. So it needs a big cultural shift, really.
Yeah. And on that note, BMK put a comment in there. Deming's quote, "Quality is everybody's responsibility," and he said the same way security is always also everyone's responsibility.
Yes,
not
correct.
just in security teams. And just another comment we've got here from Dr. Toews, which is bringing security consideration early in the loop is shift left.
Yeah,
all right.
That's right.
There we go. Thank you very much for that. So just in keeping with time, what we'll do, we can always come back to this subject, but what we'll do now is we've got Anna up in the top of the screen. We'll go to Anna to introduce yourself and to introduce your presentation for us, and we'll have a bit of a kororo around that before going to Everett as the last speaker. But Anna, if you could give us a bit of your background and what you'll be presenting on, that'd be a pleasure.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anna Lezhikova. I moved from Russia to New Zealand 10 years ago. And here in New Zealand, I started practicing IT, starting as a full stack developer, moving to DevOps and then DevSecOps, and being a DevSecOps practitioner for the last 2 years. And also got background in public relations, sociology, and running a business. So my talk is about DevSecOps pain and joy. And what I'm going to talk about is just the questions we raised today. What's DevSecOps really? And we'll touch shift and left and culture, and then another key term in here is mindset. And I don't want to talk much about my talk because there will be surprises and fun, so I don't want to spoil it. So, but I really, really hope that you will have fun watching it and enjoy it.
Okay, so if we can't open the confidential top secret file, which is okay, but you're talking about shift and left. Now, as MC, I have to, maybe I should have introduced myself a little bit more for your benefit as well as the viewers. But I grew up around IT. So we had a Commodore 64 and Mum has just retired from being a CIO. But I worked in the sales and marketing side because I used to translate between Mum and Dad. Dad's not an IT person, Mum is, so I always translated. So naturally I fit into the communication space. Agile certified and a lot of experience in explaining software and whatnot. But DevSecOps, I've been running AFQY for the last 5 or 6 years solidly. So shift left is a new term for me. DevSecOps was just coming in as I was really moving from software sales into running tech events. So a little bit of an education for me. So the shift left, if someone could explain shift left in a bit more detail to me and to all the viewers out there that might be thinking, I thought I knew about DevSecOps, but shift left, what's that?
That will be part of my presentation. They will be talking about shift and left and DevSecOps, but we can just briefly talk about what is shift and left in DevOps, for example. And in DevOps, shift and left is just moving the moving ability to the left. For example, you've got operations and the operations do releases, and you shift your releases left to developers, so they have tools and knowledge and desire to release themselves and as fast as possible, to have all these feedback loops in the software development cycle as early as possible. So we as DevOps people, we enable everyone at the company to do things as early as possible. So the example of release is just like giving this power of releasing software to developers, not to leave it to some operation team. Like when I worked in a bank, it was, okay, we're planning release every 2 weeks. Now it's a lot of people gathering at the bridge. Everyone just like, can we go? Yes. And there are a lot of people in the operations team who pull all these levers to get the software out. When shift and left, you're just giving all these levers to developers, but provide them with all the tooling, visibility, and security controls, that everything, like all the feedback loops, so they can press this button, go to prod with confidence at any time. So this is CI/CD stuff. So shift and left is just moving, just software development cycle to moving all these steps like testing, releases, security, all these checks we used to leave, throw over the wall to other teams, moving them to the planning step as early as possible. and enabling people to do as much as they can themselves.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and some of the value there is like Anna mentioned, the more rapid feedback loop, being able to incorporate that feedback much more quickly as you accelerate your releases. But it's also when you shift left, depending on where you're on the screen, that your things are actually cheaper to fix out on the left, right? The earlier you bump into problems, they might actually uncover design problems or architectural problems, really big stuff that's hard and difficult to change. And so that can really help you fix those things earlier, where it's and when it's much cheaper to do so, and you don't get those kinds of nasty problems in production that you really want to avoid.
Yeah.
So I was just watching a webinar on scaled agile, and they were talking about the measurements of flow, and there was the I might get the 4 key runs. There was features, defect, debt, and risk. So essentially, by shift left, we're delivering the features and then working through the defect before it becomes debt, and managing risk at the same time and faster. Look, I'm learning today, and I'm sure there'll be other people out there, and that's of course why people are going to come to the Cloud Native Summit. So part of what I do as the MC is make everybody comfortable, because if I ask the what you might consider the dumbest questions, then everyone can see that and go, oh, my question is actually quite intelligent. I'll put my hand up and ask. So why don't we move on to Everett now? And there's going to have a little bit of time at the end, I imagine, to have a bit more of a rounded discussion and a bit of a chat about Cloud Native in general. But Everett, if I could invite you to introduce yourself, give us some context of your background, and I'll pop you up to the top of the screen there. So if we could get a bit of your background, and then, of course, what your presentation will be about, that'd be fantastic. Over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. My name is Everett Toews. The last name looks nothing like it sounds. I appreciate that. I'm a specialist director at Deloitte. I've been in New Zealand for the past 4.5 years now or so. I come to New Zealand from Canada. That's the goofy accent you hear. I'm in Wellington on this lovely day. It's kind of typical winter weather here in Welly. Let's not go on the weather tangent. I'm a reformed Java developer. I spent kind of the first half of my career doing Java development and some Python development as well. And then I really kind of moved more into the infrastructure space, building clouds, building platforms, and getting into that whole world. And then, ultimately discovering DevOps, both from the technical aspects and the cultural aspects, and really kind of glommed onto that, because that's the thing that made sense to me. And I've kind of taken the past 10 years of my work building platforms and kind of condensed it into the 25-minute session for Cloud Native Summit. And so it's all around the principles for a cloud native platform, and what it is. It's kind of a really broad look at what it takes to successfully design, build, and run a cloud native platform, and the kind of the big pieces. So during a conference or a summit like this, typically you're looking at this thing. You're kind of focused on the conference has a theme, right? And everybody's talking about different aspects of that thing, of that theme. In this case, cloud native platforms, or kind of the cloud native ecosystem in general. And so what I'm trying to do is provide that zoomed out little bit look, that 100,000 meter view of it, where it gets everybody kind of level set on a definition for the for a cloud native platform, and actually the principles and the practices behind it, and kind of have a definition for it, that and no one's ever going to agree on one definition for these types of things, but at least it gives us a starting point, a straw man, if you will, that kind of helps move the discussion along.
Excellent. So could you give us some examples of platforms that you've been involved in building, just to give us some context to the concepts?
Yeah, so it started early on, like very early on, in the days of OpenStack. Actually, that's a open source private cloud offering. It was at its time, it was I think it was one of the largest open source projects in the world. I think it's been surpassed by Kubernetes maybe at this point. But yeah, that started, 10-ish years ago. Started building OpenStack clouds and got into that whole open source community, which was really great. Really amazing experience. And just met a lot of great people there. And then things kind of evolved from there. Both in terms of technology in my career and where I was in my life. And then Docker came out, right? And kind of DevOps was coming to the forefront as a concept at that time too. Kind of a nice confluence of things. And just this whole idea around developer experience was a real eye opener. And that is something that's what I've been suffering my whole career. I've been suffering from a bad developer experience, and now I've got a name to put to it, and now I've got something to work towards in terms of making things better. And so that's kind of where the whole platform bit came in, and trying to deliver in general a better developer experience around the whole thing, but just making it more secure, more observable, more manageable, all these things to just kind of generally make things better.
Excellent. And usually it takes some sort of pain in our background to want to be able to solve that problem. So just before I jump into a couple of questions, Mike, Anna, do you have any questions around the platforms and the pain points and the solutions that Everett's been talking about?
Yeah, so I'm actually coming from an operation and platform background. So unlike the other guests here, they came from a developer background and moved to some platform work, right? So yeah, I feel what Everett was saying. It's always a challenge, and before DevOps as a principle, there's always a big wall between developer and operation, and basically infighting happen, and that's causing a lot of pain but also resources problem within the enterprise. And because of this cloud native and DevOps and DevSecOps principle coming into the picture, there's a big shift where collaborations are enabled, fast feedback are encouraged, so that you can actually deliver services and application the fast as you can. And I think that's the power, and this is why we are here talking about this, because we all believe in the power of enabling that collaboration and using the principle of DevOps and DevSecOps.
Excellent. Now I've got a little bit of a family analogy or question. So I mentioned my mother, CIO. My brother is also a developer, and primarily in developing bank systems. So literally the Bank of Mexico, if it's still using the same system, and a range of other banks, including Bank of Qatar. If you take money out of that money machine, that's the system he architected. And back when we were all living together, of course, I'm the youngest. So my brother was at university, and they would argue like children over which was the best way. And of course, mum being experienced and my brother being new and fresh, it was like, this argument. And I was thinking about why this is the case, because we've all seen it throughout the tech industry. And I just had this little thought just now, for the first time ever, I felt like I might have the answer, which is that there is always something new. So that's why there's always this tension and potential for argument, because someone goes, "Oh, I've been doing it this way." There's like more than 9 ways to skin the cat, but add to that, there's always a new service being released by one of the big cloud providers. There's always a new language. There's always a new something. So, do you think that's? I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether the always something new adds to the. I know something that you potentially don't, therefore it's worthy of me to share. But of course, as that happens, naturally, someone goes, "No, I'm right. No, I'm right. No."
Can I add a facet of how to look at this? Because I'm, as you can see, a woman. So I identify myself as a woman, and I'm in IT, and especially in like DevOps world and security world, I find very rarely in the room with other women. I find myself very rarely in the room with other women. So, and when I usually don't have this urge to argue about technologies, and I think it's my feminine part in it. So I think the solution to this is just to have more women. And then you don't have to argue much because we are in the same team and we've got a common goal to make things work. And it doesn't matter what technology we're using. Maybe we're not using the best technology, but our user doesn't care if you're using the best or the worst technology as long as they receive value. If we are like arguing about the best technology while they're not receiving value, there's no point in any technology, right? So that's why just like there's always new, but because this new, not shiny thing, this new solves problems. And you need to use a new thing if it solves a problem you've been having for a long time and there's nothing else to solve it. But if it's just new thing, shiny, that doesn't solve your problem and you want just to use it because, oh yeah, it's a cool new toy, then maybe not, because every new toy is quite expensive thing to introduce. Right.
But there's a couple of things there. Yeah, really well said, I think. And a couple of things there. I'll come back to bleeding edge, leading edge, old hack. And that's the cost factor that you mentioned, I think. But also, you're talking about mindset in your initial talk about your presentation, and that mindset shift from the competitive, who knows the most, to we actually focus on outcomes for our customer. We're focused on delivering value, and when you change your mindset, it's like the vision or the why for a company. It drags everything else with it once you have that set nicely. And therefore, if we have our mindset right, it's about customer value, then we become much more collaborative, I believe, than if it's about proving who's the smartest person in the room. Put that in inverted commas because it's not necessarily the right thing.
Sorry, Ryan, but there's also this other side of the coin story where the idea of best idea wins, and this is encouraged in an open source community, right? So there will be a lot of approaches in specific business use case, but people will be contributing and iterating the solution towards the best outcome of that business case, and somehow I've seen this a lot because recently there will be a lot of open source adoptions that are happening in enterprise, and it's like we've seen this in the say 10,000 feet view. It looks like chaos, but it's actually a controlled chaos that delivers outcome as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. You made me think about competition and how competition drives excellence, I guess, because you're under pressure to do better. And it's a really interesting, the two sides, collaboration and competition. And I guess it comes back to that point of what outcome are we trying to achieve? In one situation, it might be the focus on delivering value for the customer. And another situation, it might be, here's a good practical example, the difference between a hackathon competition and working within an organization to deliver for a company, But what was it? Who has the best, I forget the way you phrased it.
Best ideas win.
Best ideas win.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's part of what the open source community is about, if we start delving into that, because it opens everything up, and therefore someone can develop this way, someone can develop an idea that way, they can be doing the same thing. So which is better, a 3-wheeled car or a 4-wheeled car, a motorbike, 4-wheel drive? I don't know. Depends. Are we going overland or are we just jumping on the motorway?
I think it's a bit more nuanced than that, because it's not you can like best idea or that. So there's often a best idea or some sort of perfect place, some sort of nirvana to reach. but it's a continuum, right, to get there.
Yes.
So,
yes.
and it's that whole notion of continuous improvement, which I actually prefer to term as, I have to write it down because I always come back to it, intentionally converging to current best practice, right? So it's adopting that mindset where you're starting from a point, like obviously it's almost rare that yet you're starting in some sort of greenfield point. So it's a matter of, okay, you know what, we want to get over here, but you know what, we're not going to be able to make that quantum leap to get there. It's going to be a bunch of step jumps to actually arrive at that point. And so it's just a matter of everybody kind of intentionally converging to that place and evolving their thinking, and you know that's where the cultural aspects come into it too, getting everybody rowing in the same direction.
Yeah. Well, that's really good insight. And what I just want to recognize is we're just going over time. So wanted to enable our viewers to get back to their work as well as getting you back to your work. But I thought what we might do is if I just give you some time to think about your closing statement for everybody out there. You know, it might be a little bit about your presentation, might be a little bit about our culture, about discussion about culture. It might be, reasons why you think they should be coming to the Cloud Native Summit, or could include a mix of all of that or nothing. It could be different. But let's start with our first speaker, Mike. So if we go to your closing remarks first.
Yeah. So Ryan, I really enjoyed this conversation first and foremost, and I think this type of, let's say, live talk and exchanging idea is always encouraging. Now, when it comes to my talk, I think everybody accept that integrating security throughout software development lifecycle is very, very important in this current cloud native environment. But it's not always easy. And let's together, I hope in my talk, I can steer some ideas and encourage people to actually look at and what to do and something to ponder about after my talk to help them successfully adapt to DevSecOps.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And now, Anna, if we come to you, if you can share your closing thoughts and remarks, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to have this live conference, to just be there with people in the room and talk and like have all this like morning tea and chats, because last year it was postponed, and I was really looking into it. And actually I spoke at another conference, but it was virtual. It was not at all this like even close to the experience I enjoy going to the conferences. So I really look into it. I look into everyone to meet at Cloud Native Forum.
Right.
And with my presentation, I really want us to have fun, and just all the other presentations, just enjoy, have fun, because all the cool, like the most cool ideas come out of the like things that just easy, and you just didn't realize that something like you was like planted in your head. Yeah. So I really want, but I really hope to plant some thought seeds in your head that will grow into amazing ideas. That's my goal.
Awesome. Cool. And of course, when I asked for the three of you to give us a bit of a teaser, you literally teased us, because you've said you can't share the secret of what you're going to talk about. So we'll find out at the event. And now
at the event.
Yeah. And now, Everett, if we come to you for closing remarks, what are your final thoughts to everybody, please?
Yeah, I just want to, if there happens to be anyone out there who's kind of on the fence about attending, despite your background, we're actually the main diversity sponsor for the summit, and just want to encourage anyone from any background of any nature to come on out, even if you feel like it might not necessarily be for you, or if it's if you're somehow uncomfortable for one reason or another. Give it a try. Give it a go. It's a very welcoming community. It's a really great scene here in Wellington, and it being an in-person event, I think is going to be a really good chance for people to get to know each other and chat, and just discover what kind of welcoming community we have here. and it's a really positive vibe there.
Yeah.
Just want to say something as well, Ryan. It's actually I'm going to mention here. I'm going to bring some elastic swag. So if you guys like stickers, pens, notebooks, t-shirts,
Are you
I'll be
bringing
bringing that.
socks?
And socks as well. I'll be bringing
Yeah,
that.
so that's every time I just get socks. I love elastic socks. They're just
there you go. Yeah.
Okay,
I'll serve
I'll be
one for
lining
you,
up.
Anna. There you go.
I'll come and get some of that swag myself. So hey, look, thank you, team. I just want to also share that the event is going to be mask friendly. So if you want to wear your mask during the event, if that's one of the things you talked about, feeling comfortable, you talked about not having events for 2 years. The obvious reason is COVID. We also now have the flu on top of that. So if anyone is holding off because they're thinking, oh, I'm not really sure, and I don't want to be the only person wearing a mask, I'll be wearing a mask at times. By all means, don't feel that it would be rude, out of place, or anyone's going to comment because, as Everett has mentioned, it's a super friendly community. And of course, during these times, we're accepting of whatever preference you have. And of course, you'll be able to get some socks, among other things. But most importantly, is you'll be able to be part of this amazing community, meet some really cool people, and that's the connections and the discussions that you'll have that are springboard from the presentations. And that's the magic of meeting in person, is those discussions that you have after the speeches, because you'll hear something and then you'll be like, what did you think of that? Oh my goodness! Oh wow! And bouncing off, just like we have today, we got into a little side discussion around culture off the back of some of the DevSecOps discussions. So by all means, make sure you come along. And if you've got a question that you do want to get checked off, then just send a question to the organisers or connect with us. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that would help enable you to come to the event. Oh, and last thing I want to mention is that for every 5 tickets purchased, Cloud Native Summit is going to give 1 ticket free of charge to an underrepresented community within tech, so that we can encourage more people to become part of the tech community. And we didn't get into the discussion. We won't start it now, but I will comment related to Anna's background. She mentioned she's studied here in New Zealand and been in tech for 10 years and been in PR. She also has a little background in construction. We didn't get to talk about that, but these are, doesn't matter what background you might have now, you're always welcome to join tech with us. So hopefully we see you at the Cloud Native Summit. It will be August the 5th for the main event. And of course, the workshops, if you're an attendee, you can attend those on the 4th of August. That's the 4th and 5th. Can't think of the days off the top of my head. Got myself caught out there, just to be honest. Bit of a bug in the system will work out. But yeah, so we'll finish up with a goodbye and a ka kite anō to everybody out there. And thank you so much to Anna, Everett, Mike, and the team from Cloud Native Summit. Thank you for your time today. We'll see you all on the August 4th and 5th.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, team. Let's get back into it.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.